Hi, welcome to 8th grade science. I'm Leah Van Moore. I will be your science teacher this year. Every year I write my students a letter telling them a little bit about myself and why I teach and what some of my values and hobbies are. And I think it really helps to get to know the person who's teaching you and that you can learn better from somebody that you know. You're going to do an assignment where you write me a letter or record a video of yourself so that I can get to know you a little better, because again, I think it's easier for me to teach somebody that I know, or at least that I would recognize walking down the street, than somebody I don't know at all. This year though, I decided to make a video since we're not in class and you're not seeing me every day and you don't get to know just little things that happen that I would tell you about in class. I thought it might be helpful to have a video with some pictures so that you could get a better sense of who I am. So first, just a little background. I've been teaching for about 22 years. I kind of stopped counting after the first 20. I've taught in 5 schools, both in Issaquah and Seattle, high schools and middle schools. I've taught all grade levels from 6th through 12th grade students, although my favorite are like 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. I've taught 9 different subjects over the course of my 22 or so years. So 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science. I've taught high school biology, chemistry, and physical science. I've taught astronomy and STEM electives. And then very oddly, for a couple of years, I taught a French cultures elective. So I've got a pretty diverse background as far as ages and subjects and levels that I've taught. So my number one personal value is my family. I have a couple pictures here of my family. A lot of you know my daughters. This is Ani and this is Mia. Mia's in 8th grade at JAMS. Ani is in 7th grade at JAMS, which is how a lot of you know them. This is my wife, Michelle. She's also a teacher, so we've been doing a lot of work trying to get the house ready. She insulated the garage so that she could teach remotely from the garage while I'm using some other room in the house, and then both of our girls will have spots to work too. This picture was actually taken on one of the first days of quarantine. Ani had broken her wrist. She's a soccer player. She plays goalie. And we didn't know if it was safe to take her to the hospital to get her cast off. So we used carpet shears and took it off in our garage. This is a picture of the one and only time the 4 of us went skiing together. And then these are my parents. This is my dad, John, and my mom, Julie, and my sister, Claire. We are also, like, that part of my family is really close-knit too. Obviously, you can see we went skiing together. My mom and dad and sister and I are on a group text and we chat with each other every day. And then I FaceTime with my parents probably 4 or 5 times a week. So I'm really, really close to the people in my family. And that is my, as I said, my number one value. Last year, my mom actually came and spoke to some of my students. She went in her career, she studied how diseases moved through societies, so she could talk a lot about epidemics. So she came and talked to some of my students about COVID, but then other studies that she had done when she was still working. So my educational values, these are the things that I hope to help you discover this year, is that my big phrase that I use a lot is science is social, that we learn best when we are able to work and discuss our ideas with other people. Sometimes that will help bring our ideas deeper. Somebody might say like, well, what do you mean by that? And kind of push you to really deepen and refine your thinking. Somebody might say, oh, I'm not sure that's right. And then maybe you were right, but you both have to go back and examine it more closely. And so then you learn it better. And so when we work just by ourselves, we have nobody to challenge our thinking, and that leads us to not go really deeply into our own thinking. I'm also hoping to help you take ownership over your own education and learning. I kind of see my role as a coach to really structure the learning and to help like guide you through the learning, but it is your job to pick that up and learn from it. So I heard a lot of people last spring say things like, well, learning right now, school right now is optional, so I'm going to opt not to do it. The big secret, or maybe not so big secret, is learning in the United States has always been optional. Nobody's going to force you to educate yourself. our dropout age in Washington State is 16 years old. So that's before high school graduation, meaning graduating high school is completely optional. It's your choice. Going to college is optional. It's your choice. And so you get to make those decisions. But on the flip side, you need to really think about, why is education important to you? I know why it's important to me. Your family probably has reasons why it's important, but really thinking about, is being educated something that's important to me? And if you're not sure, maybe you and I have some talks about that this year, because I think that education is incredibly important. And part of why it's important goes right into science education, is critical thinking of data and science. I think we've had a lot of noise, and there are a lot of different views about something like COVID that we've seen over the past 6 months. And so being able to find and analyze your own data so you can really make some good conclusions is really valuable. So I just pulled a bunch of these graphs. I spend some time, I'm kind of a data nerd. So I spent a lot of time looking at COVID data, and I pulled these graphs offline, and just understanding like, what is similar, what is different about them, what does it mean for me? Here's just, I'm not going to go through all this data, but the point is, like, I was able to find all this data and make sense of it and use it to make decisions about whether, for example, I would send my kids back to school if it opened, or whether it was okay for me to go visit my parents if there's still COVID going around. And so this is just lots of different data that you have access to and can find and interpret, and then really make good decisions. And that's what science is all about, whether we're looking at COVID data or physics data or biology data or anything like that. And then finally, at its core, my hope is that you come out of this year understanding that science is about helping our community. Every scientist I know does science to help their family and help their community, whether that's their local community or their worldwide community. So a really good example is taking all this data and then understanding why we need to wear masks and how to properly wear a mask, and then being able to educate other people so that they're not getting sick or getting other people sick. And this one right here is my favorite, this woman with her mask around her neck. I see that all the time. That's not helping anybody. My hobbies, when I'm not teaching or preparing lessons, I really like to cook. So these are some of the things I cooked in the past few months. One of my students last year, Sadie Suskin, some of you know her, taught me how to make poached eggs. So I was really excited about that. These are my poached eggs. You might be able to tell I cook a lot of vegetarian stuff. I do have some fish here. It's not all vegetarian. I'm not vegetarian, but through all my work in science, I care really deeply about doing some stuff to minimize my impact on global warming. And some of you know that eating meat is a huge contributor to global warming. And so I have made the conscious decision for myself and my family that we are not going to eat as much meat per week. I try to keep it to 3 meals of meat total per week, whether that's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Even with eggs, like I thought it was funny, I do have 2 eggs. I actually really like eggs. But like when I'm baking, I use a vegetarian egg substitute, so that like if I'm making muffins, you don't need the egg exactly. And then that, again, that's an animal product that is not being raised and then contributing to global warming. I also really like to do outdoorsy things. So like going for a run isn't really my thing, but Ani and I took up hiking this summer. This is us up at Lake Malacca. I like to go skiing, as you saw earlier. I like to go paddle boarding. So I really like exercise that is outdoorsy and fun, but like I'm not somebody who's just gonna go out and like go for a run. So now your assignment is to either write me a letter or make a video to introduce yourself. So you could include how you like to learn, what your values or your family's values are, who do you consider your community, what are your hobbies and interests, and what excites you about this year. I know there's a lot some of us are disappointed about, but what's exciting to you? If you write a letter, please include a picture of yourself so that I can actually see who you are. Some of you are going to make this a really big thing, and that's fine, but I know some of you are like, how short can I make it and still get credit? So letters need to be at least half a page typed, normal font and spacing, and videos need to be at least 3 minutes long. And then the due date will be posted on Schoology. I'm actually recording this in August, so I don't know what the due date is yet, but that will be on Schoology. I hope you learned a little bit about me, and I really look forward to learning about you.